Good evening. Welcome to the Infra TV Infra show. Today we have the Markenomic Take. I am Prakash Iyer. I am the executive publisher and editor of Inertia and Markenomic Journal. Today we have with us Professor A.G. Iyer, who is the editor-in-chief and publisher of Inertia Journal and Markenomic Journal. And today we have this Markenomic Take on the Union Budget 2014 and 2015. Professor Iyer is a very intelligent man with a lot of ideas. He's an economist, a thinker, he is a strategist, and we will talk to him regarding the salient features of the budget 2014-2015. Welcome to the show, Professor Iyer.
Yes, and today is a very special day, my friends, on this Inertia Dialogue. And we just had the maiden budget, Union Budget 2014, yesterday from our Finance Minister, the Honorable Mr. Arun Jaitley.
Yes, Professor Iyer. So what I wanted to talk to you regarding this Union Budget was that it's a budget where there have been a lot of positive feedback to the budget. That is, people have appreciated it. A lot of people have been saying this is okay, something in the middle, and certain people have gone ahead and criticized the budget. And what is your take? How do you rate this budget?
See, in my opinion, what has happened, if you look at the whole thing, there are two angles to this lookout. What has happened with it is the challenges that were faced by the government at that point of time and the expectations of the people. Both the sides are to be seen. The expectations were like, Achhe din aane wale, right? So what is the Achhe din aane wale? Achhe din aane wale means something drastic has to happen, right? So on that side, the plane of the expectation is there. And then they were thinking that the big bang will come from the Union Budget 2014. And that is where it became not a big bang, it was a little bit of a disappointment. Because you would have seen that after the budget has come, the stock markets actually went down. And then they tried to swing up a little bit. And those 300, 400 points of swing and then coming back and closing less is one of the signs that the budget was not exactly a great budget. It was just an average budget, right? The second sign is the reaction from rating organization like Standard & Poor's, who said that India's rating remained unchanged after the budget. So this does not happen. Why I want to talk about this is what had happened even when Narendra Bhai Modi was not elected India's PM, and we were in the midst of the election. The stock market has risen even with an expectation from 21,000 to 25,000 level today. So in fact, after Modi ji has won, in fact it's very funny that when after Modi ji has won, it was expected to hit the 30,000 level. But we are saying it will come by next March. So some roadblock has been hit in between. Whether it was hit after Modi ji came to power or whether it is being hit in these 45 days, that will be only assessed in the future.
But stock market can be a little bit fickle. What do you feel?
Okay, forget the stock market. You see the reaction. It's like that, it's like we just had the football match, the Brazilian football match. We all talked about Brazil going, and I was very clear Brazil will take a hit. On that evening before, I had said, and we had a dialogue, and I said Brazil may get decimated. So once the leader, which was Neymar in that case, is not there, right, and the captain is not there, these are the two leaderships. The moment it is not there, it collapsed. I am more worried. I am not going to be a very happy man, but I am very worried. I am very worried by this Union Budget. And I have great regards for both the Finance Minister and I have tremendous regard for the Prime Minister. And we have supported the campaign that the Prime Minister ran with his Gujarat model and everything. And we are one of the few people in the country who ran this campaign together and saying that what Modi ji was talking about in economic terms was a wonderful thing for India and that the Gujarat model would be replicated. So from that position, I want to say that I am disappointed with the current budget.
So do you feel that the burden of expectation has weighed heavily on the Finance Ministry? He tried to do too much for everybody, because there has been generally a criticism that he has been a 100 crore Finance Minister bringing out 100 crore schemes and a 100 crore budget. How do you see this criticism?
See, there are two ends again to this whole story. what had happened when he began, the first 10 minutes of his speech were brilliant. It actually laid down almost like, it looked like there was a Modi graph going on. First 10 minutes of a speech of the Union budget, any time you take and hear, you will feel that he is going right way, because he talked about global situation, he talked about fiscal deficit, he talked about consolidation, he talked about those lines. And then he had, in that particular 10 minutes, it looked like we have a new finance minister who is going to change the whole game. And then comes the body of the budget. The body of the budget had pure announcements. And very surprising, all those announcements were not backed up by any kind of factual stuff inside, you know. So that is the problem. And the last one, the 100 crore business, it continued for too long, and it was a very long budget speech where the finance minister himself had trouble to continue speaking, and he had to take a small break and then continue. And ultimately what happened, and when he ended the budget, I think the end was also abrupt according to me. So seeing all these conditions, we have not come to the nitty-gritty discussion, but I'm seriously worried. I'm seriously worried by the fact that are we not going to tackle anything for at least a few months, or there is something else. So I'm very clear, I want to make an assessment here. It is not a Modi Chhap budget.
Okay, now
it is a without Modi Chhap budget, and I do not know whether I am right or wrong. The Prime Minister has to introspect what I have said, and the Finance Minister is good. He said that there is a lot of things which can be done outside the budget. So I am a man very hopeful. So I want to say maybe beyond the budget. But right now we are both in a discussion on the budget.
Right. So now generally the budget proposes a planned expenditure of 5,75,000 crores for the current fiscal, and a non-planned expenditure of which is pegged at 12,19,892 crores for 2014-15.
Now it is this year we should actually discuss this a little bit.
Yeah.
See, this country has got planned expenditure which is much lower, and almost 2.5 times is non-planned.
Right.
Right. This is the type of a skewed model. According to me, the country must have 60-40 at least, 60% planned and 40% unplanned. So first of all, the nature of fiscal deficit increase and nature of indiscipline creeps in with an indiscipline itself in the structure of the budget, where you have so much of non-planned expenditure and planned expenditure is very low. So I think first, this is the place, if the next union budget is coming, first we must correct this.
So it also includes the fertilizer subsidy and the defense spending as
You
well.
can't go on ballooning your subsidies beyond a point. So you need to address your subsidy issues. But yes, social sector funding at some point of time in a welfare state needs to be considered. So this is a very complex discussion and debate. But we cannot say that the entire 2.5 times pummeling of non-planned expenditure is going up like that. You know, it can't be relegated to a subsidy culture, because if you take those figures, they do not add up.
Right. And now, what do you say about the measures that are being taken for the infrastructure and other sectors? I'll come to the specifics of that.
Right.
But overall, how do you rate whether he has done enough for the infrastructure sector or for the power sector? For example, now he proposes a 10-year tax holiday to generation companies which start producing power by March 31st, 2014. What do you think about that?
I believe that anywhere where you want to give something and you suddenly block and give a deadline kept to March 2014, doesn't make sense. According to me, if you have a tax holiday for the power sector and a 10-year tax holiday, you must have at least for a certain period of time. You can't say that a project up to 2014. 2014, any thermal power plant you want to build today and you want to come up now, will take at least 5 years to build up to 6 years to build up. Hydro project take 9 years to build up. So how can you put up a path and say only ones which came now will give a 10-year tax holiday? That is unfair. So tax holiday must have been addressed with a longer period of tenure. You are actually doing a disservice to the power infrastructure by saying that tax holiday will be only applicable to projects which close in March 2014. And March 2014 will just, it's already gone. So I do not know whether we are talking about the past or the present. If it is 31st March 2014, 10-year tax holiday for projects which have gone doesn't make sense to me. In fact, 10-year tax holiday must be given to the projects that are coming over the next financial year or two.
Extended
yeah.
future.
So he should extend it for the next 5 years. Tax holiday 10-year tax holiday extend to all projects that complete up to 2017 or 18. I would have loved that statement coming from the finance minister. It does not come. This is one example.
Right.
This good thing in the budget is for renewable energy. In fact, there is nothing for conventional energy. In fact, the interesting part is renewables and clean energy is important. So I see two steps here. One is the cess on coal increase from 50 to 100 rupees per ton is a major step that will fuel issues of climate change, which will help the renewable energy funding, which will help the clean energy funding.
Okay.
On the other side is he has removed the excise duty completely on imported component for solar, like EV sheets, etc. It's a list of items that will bring Indian industry on par with the global industry, and cost of procuring solar power in India will become cheaper to that extent.
Right.
So that will impact the solar power industry by at least 10%. There will be 10% cheaper minimum. The solar products will become at least 10% cheaper because of this situation.
Right.
So that means we are going to see lower tariffs in the solar sector, and it will be a very competitive scene for the Indian market. But this is a half step taken, because what is the position that we had taken, which we had written from our Renewable Energy Promotion Association?
Right.
We have written to all these ministers, including the Honorable PM, including the Secretary MNRE, including all those officials, including Joint Secretary Finance, right, including Mr. Jaitley himself. We wanted them to not put an anti-dumping duty on the imported component, especially when we are importing raw material as input for solar, which is the very retrograde step of the UP government. It is silent, the budget is silent on this. Second is, we have also given an alternative proposal of non-DCR and DCR based funding. That means, we said instead of removing anti-dumping duty, you can further look at a solution that you make it mandatory for domestic content requirement. Now both these policies have not been addressed in this Honorable Union Minister's of Finance budget. So Arun Jaitley ji probably must have missed this, or he must be waiting to address this over the future. So I expect and hope that he takes that next step forward to promote solar as well. Another thing which I was disappointed is, nothing is said about hydropower in the country. I don't see even a line mentioned about hydropower, where the hydropower capacity in the country in the power mix has come down from a level of 25 to 26% to a pathetic level of 16.5%. So there is no mention about hydropower. There is also no mention about the Bhutan policy, although the Prime Minister made a great visit to Bhutan. So the budget should have made so many statements the budget has made. So the bilateral issue of Indo-Bhutan has not been addressed by the Union Budget 2014-15. And there are a lot of budgetary issues of allocation of further funds for development of the Puna Sanchu hydro project and all. So I have just given a few nuggets to tell you that the power sector did not get a great deal as people have been projecting, that with power and infrastructure and roads that got everything. Okay, road sector might have got a lot of good things. I think a lot of good work has been done in the road sector.
What do you have to say about the extension of the gas grid? Now,
yes, this is also an interesting question. The gas grid is going to be connected question. Gas infrastructure, the only gas infrastructure state in the country is Gujarat. We have rewarded Gujarat for all these kind of things. Gujarat has won the Energia Awards 6 times in a row, and I will not be surprised if it goes 7 times in a row in this year. Me as the chairman of that jury and you as the convener, it will not be a very big deal. But I want to come back. Gujarat, the gas grid state, and we are saying 15,000 kilometers of gas pipeline was available. 80% of the gas pipeline in the state called Gujarat, and we have 30 states here, and at least there are 6 states which can go to gas grid. So are we saying that just a few 2,000 or 3,000 kilometers per state? I think this is not looking okay to me. It must be clear in our mind that the only state which can now get a gas grid is Maharashtra, because it's closest to Gujarat, and the other one is Andhra Pradesh. So it is not spelled out in the budget that what is that 15,000 kilometers of extra gas grid that will be built. It is not clear which states that investment is going to go.
What do you mean to say that is very important for our energy security?
Highly important, because without hydropower coming in, which I mentioned, the only other power that can suffice, because hydropower gives you peak power, and we do not have peak capacities. Our peak capacity are devastated, and this is going to create crisis for our national frequency and the quality of power in the country. There can be grid trippings. Under the condition, only gas can solve the problem.
Right. And now, for example, he has taken some good steps. You can say.
Let us look. I think we still should sustain our infrastructure pitch.
Right.
I think let's go to the infrastructure, and let us talk about the infra deal that we have got. Let us look at this issue. For example, This is a wonderful step. Let us look at positives in the infrastructure.
Right.
Investment of 37,880 crores in NHAI and state roads is proposed, which include rupees 3,000 crore for Northeast. I would say Northeast, fantastic. If you want to give tremendous marks to the minister, this one step I would give great marks. And there is another place where Northeast is going to get also other type of infrastructure. Another 1,000 crores is there in the budget.
Yes, and a lot of bordering states also is allocated.
Right. So I think the entire budget plan allocation for border development and development of our remote corners, that is a great laudable step. In fact, here I will give full marks to the finance minister for doing that. Then the second thing is on the thermal power. I was very disturbed, or I was very surprised that how can just a peanut of rupees 100 crore be allocated to a new scheme for ultra modern supercritical coal based thermal power technology. No country in the world can give such pathetic budget for developing such a state of the art thing. So our people from Toshiba who have put up joint venture here and all that, they're way ahead of us. Even the Chinese are ahead of us. Although their technology is pathetic, their technology is not performing with Indian coal. BHL may have a better technology, but BHL needs to improve the R&D side big way. 100 crores is just not sufficient in my opinion.
If we flit across and we talk about the 500 crore allocation for ultra mega solar power project, what is this definition of ultra mega solar project?
My God, I tell you, when you say ultra mega, the definition of ultra mega goes to 4,000 megawatt. Even if we are conservative in solar, a single location is 2,000 megawatt. At today's cost of about 6 crores per megawatt, that would amount to 12,000 crores for even one project. So I do not know how this figure of rupees 500 crores for providing ultra mega solar power project has come, and all states like Rajasthan, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu have been labelled. Are they going to get the peanuts of 50, 100 crore or what? This is not fathomable, and I think something is wrong with whoever has prepared this. It is definitely not the finance minister. Probably finance minister had less time to look into this. That is what I feel, because he has to relook and revisit this. Because something is wrong with this whole
When
issue.
we are at it, we also talk about the 400 crore rupees allocation for the schemes for solar power driven agricultural pumps. What do you think? Is it sufficient?
Now this is another issue which I think people have not put any idea on this. Just the state of Gujarat needs 5,000 crores to fuel investment in more than 1 lakh pump sets. Right? How can just 400 crores provided for the scheme drive water pump sets across the country using solar? Now this is a very major issue. In fact, we need to provide a lot of money to water pump sets, because what will happen, this will release gigawatt scale into the grid in virtual power terms. It is a thing which we can explain to the minister, and we should talk to the Honorable Power Minister to go and canvass with this. And I think, as I understand, the Minister of Finance, the Honorable Cabinet Minister of Finance, Arun Jaitley ji, looks a very sensible and positive person. So something has gone wrong while presenting this. The data is incomplete, or there is a mistake in the figure.
And Professor, when we are at it, let us conclude this segment on MNRE or new and renewable energy by talking about this 100 crore allocated for 1 megawatt solar parks on the banks of the canals.
This is again a peanut issue, because a 1 megawatt canal tap project is just about 8 or 10 crores maximum, and that is done in the canal at the Narmada canal. Now that is being extended by another 10 megawatt. So why you are only asking for 1 megawatt in the rest of the country? I think everywhere we should go to the 10 megawatt level. So here also, as I earlier told you, there is no Modi chap in all this. It looks like sans Modi everything else is happening. Because if Modi would be thinking like us, what I am talking, people like us who are talking. His thought is brilliant, because he would not talk less than 10 megawatt for every state or every location. At least 15 or 20 locations should have been selected with 10 megawatt, because in the Gujarat Narmada, it is being extended to another 10 megawatt. That means 11 megawatt it will become from 1 megawatt success. From the pilot success of 1 megawatt, we are going to 10. Now why we are doing so many pilots in the first budget?
Right.
It doesn't make sense. Take 5 locations and do bigger projects. Right. So again, this is a point on which I am not at a same plane in which the finance minister has put up those figures.
And what about the green energy corridor? Would it be a waste of investment?
It's very dangerous. Today we are talking about the minister himself. The Honorable Power Minister had earlier said that the grid infrastructure and the problem of evacuation or the lack of evacuation capability because of lack of transmission infrastructure resulted in power problems in Delhi, right? And the same problem is compounded throughout the country. And we also know that in a state like Tamil Nadu, almost we are not able to offtake 3,000 megawatt of renewable energy coming from wind because of the vagaries of wind and because of lack of transmission corridor. Now under such a condition, again creating a redundancy using a green corridor, I tell you it is a non-starter.
Okay.
You cannot do so much redundancy, this country cannot afford redundancy. That means we cannot keep idle capacities and call it green corridor. You have to mix, you have to pool the power. So the pooling of the power will come only when you bring a very large megawatt like NTPC into the thing, and they are doing it. And that is the right way to go about. Pooling of power, that means high cost solar power has to be fueled with depreciated low cost thermal power coming from coal based power plants. Then your tariff will not go up. Otherwise, a large tariff coming from solar, even if it is 6 rupees today, it will reach grid parity only by 2016-17. It will not be able to be absorbed in large quantum unless you do this power pooling. So for that, you cannot keep redundant transmission corridors.
Right.
You cannot put a greener highway when there is no highway.
You mean to say that there should be a concentration in smart grid and there is...
Yes, smart grid will ensure that the right time when the corridor is free, the renewable energy will be pumped. Right? And the right of way will go to renewable energy. That is the corridor. It is not a real corridor, it is not a physical infrastructure. But it is a hypothetical corridor, which is, I will give right of way to renewable energy before I give to conventional power. But this is also theoretical because conventional power from depreciated power plants of thermal today also cost marginal to us. Hydropower coming from Bhakra costs us 15 paisa or 12 paisa. So we have to give corridor to green energy of hydro first,
right,
rather than green energy of solar at 6 rupees. That will be the case, right? So even in green energy, we have to put behind, depending on season, the right energy in the forefront. So what corridor is talking about, it cannot be a dedicated corridor. It cannot be, it is a non-starter.
Okay, so when we are talking about smart things, let us also talk a little bit. For example, there is a provision, FDI provision that has been kept that for a built-up area and capital conditions for FDI has been reduced from 50,000 square meters to 20,000 square meters.
No, I got what you are saying. You are talking about smart cities. So again, there is a problem in this whole thing, in the infrastructure bill. See, we wanted, I remember when the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Bhai Modi, whom we said will become the Prime Minister, I was the one who wrote that article along with you, and it was a cover piece of ours in August 2013. So you must tell the viewers that we were the first ones who said he will be the next Prime Minister of India. And I am wanting to say, in those days, after he was announced as a candidate subsequently, after Marconomy said in its cover that he will be the next Prime Minister of the country, because based on our survey, he again was put as a candidate and he came. And his pitch during the period, he said, I will build 100 smart cities. This was speech. And he talked about brand new 100 smart cities. Now what has happened to that? Today, the budget says they will improve 100 cities to reach and become smart cities. So it's a pare down. Further pare down, it says the infrastructure investment is for a 50,000 square meter and $10 million US dollar investment. That is the value of a smart city. That is the definition of smart city. It comes down to 20,000 square meters, that means 60% of the size, and it becomes $5 million investment. That means we have de facto reduced the number of smart cities in real terms to only 25. And that too we are making second-hand cities.
So that is playing with the benchmark. That's very.
No, this is not at all Mr. Modi. This is not at all Prime Minister Modi. These portions of the budget do not look like Prime Minister Modi's budget. Because definitely the Honorable Finance Minister must have had some compulsion. It is not possible to make such mistakes, I will call it blunders. He must not have made. Some heavy compulsion is there. What is the reason? And we must assess.
And Professor, 7,060 crores for 100 smart
cities. Oh, that is another joke. 100 smart cities, 7,060 crores. That means only 70.6 crores per city. I tell you that to make a 50 to 100 flats apartment, we need that kind of money. So where is the question of smart city? And okay, the Honorable Finance Minister has said that this is just the beginning. We are not said this is the be all and end all of it. But I think this is not a good beginning. You unnecessarily left a lot of things desirable in the budget. You left it open. And now with this, lot of tongues will wag.
And for real estate, he has created incentives for real estate investment trusts.
Another area which many people have said that it is a wonderful step that he is going to create real estate investment trust and also infrastructure investment trust. Now both these ideas on paper fantastic, but I want to know who will invest in this trust. In the world, capital market entities are not ready to invest in companies which have no shareholding. Trust will not have shareholding. So are we trying to say that we are going to sell bonds? Now to sell any bonds of any trust like this, there must be backed by sovereign ratings and guarantees of Government of India. Now, Government of India, to give any sovereign rating, need to go back to its own financial health. And its own financial health is under question as far as the international, I would say, bodies are concerned. So how would these trusts perform? So again, I want this whole idea to be discussed in the domain and a real path to be charted out for these trusts.
Right. And now for irrigation, he has taken one major step, and that is the 1,000 crore he has provided for Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana.
Now I do not know this. There is a Ganga scheme. There is a Ganga clinic scheme. There is a but all these schemes, what is there? We know already that in the Ganges, the Ganga, the great river, we have already spent more than 20,000 crores. And forget about cleaning, it has become even more polluted, right? So another 2,000 crores, what it is going to do, I do not know. And then from there to Haldia, the corridor with the 4,200 crores sum, that is the only green point in that, or that's the only good point in that. That I like. That any infrastructure investment guy would say that creating a water corridor, on the Ganga for navigation, that is a good idea for movement of goods and resources across that. That is a good idea. But again, putting 2,000 crore in the Ganga cleaning, and then we are calling it Namami Gange, I think God only save us, because if we do a disservice to Ganga again, so they must be careful about these things. While they have announced, the background of this shows that those sums have gone down the drain.
Okay, now
I believe that they must be genuine. I'm not discouraging, but I'm saying we must question this.
In rural development also, 500 crore for Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Jyoti Yojana for feeder separation.
Oh, this is nothing but the Rajiv Gandhi Gramin Vidyutikaran Yojana in a different packet.
Right.
So just by changing the name, that doesn't change. The Gramin Vidyutikaran that has happened all these while in the name of the RGGY is that people in the remote area do not get any electricity. Instead of power for all by 2012, which was the earlier pitch, Sushil Kumar Shinde was the then minister, we have made powerlessness for all Indians. Today our villages do not get even 1 hour of electricity in 60% of our village economy.
So do you feel that for feeder separation he needed a different nomenclature like this?
No, see, for feeder separation, the Gujarat model is a good model, can be replicated to other states.
Right, that is
but the power coming back to the grid is another question. See, Gujarat has got a 23 gigawatt capacity in the grid. Maharashtra has got 25 gigawatt, and remember, Gujarat's population is 6.5 crores, Maharashtra's population is 12 crores. So Maharashtra has power deficit, Gujarat is power surplus. So you need to also compare the population of these states, what they serve. And both are industrial states I am talking about. And see, when you come to UP, we are only seeing 11 gigawatt of power for a 20 crore population. How this skewed model will ever work? Capacity build-up is essential. Today it is so funny that we have 240 gigawatt on paper as installed in India, but we are only operating 135 gigawatt. How will you serve the country? With this is like, in Hindi they call it the one-legged race, is called the Langri Tang race. You cannot do a Langri Tang. You need to address these issues. And these issues may not be budgetary, but they have an implication in the budget. For example, I do not see any address for renewable energy, green energy. For financing, there is no mention in the budget of talking to this is a budgetary step. You talk to the Reserve Bank of India for providing low interest loans between 5 to 7%, which we have demanded in the past as well. And we have written to the current finance minister and also the Minister for New and Renewable Energy, who is also the Power Minister, Shri Piyush Goyal. But then I do not see any pitch on these grounds in the budget. So are we waiting for the next budget? I hope so.
And then Professor, 14,000 crore, 14,389 crore Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. How?
So that is that, I would say it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, because see, 14,000 crore for Gram Sadak, I think it's a good idea. But my only point of view in this is, okay, I give kudos to that. But my point of view is, why don't you make the village roads using waste steel slag lying in mountains in the country? Why don't we change the infrastructure investment logic using steel slag? If we build steel slag roads like in Singapore using these type of roads, because they import the slag literally. Slag is a waste from steel. After manufacturing steel, we have waste slag. Then that is granulated and certain material is created which can be used for both for pavement construct road. And India's road, and actually Singapore had same problem of lot of rains. So India's road from concrete, we need to go to this road because these roads last much longer and are superior to concrete. And for village economy, you don't need to construct a road in a conventional way. You can just do aggregation, blending and put it and the road remains forever.
And
so you must make your 14,000 crores look like 40,000 crores by taking technology into the game. So I would like this kind of thing developing over the next few months from the desk of the finance minister and going to the infrastructure sector.
And the 8,000 crore from National Housing Bank?
That is a good thing, but then why only National Housing Bank? Why not open mass housing, which I think Venkaiah Naiduji's pitch was very right, that a house for all by 2022. I think that is a great dream to be realized and I support this particular issue. Any amount of budget is given, but then it cannot be linked to only the National Housing Bank. You must bring the corporate CSR and other agencies, and you must give special incentives to budget house makers in the private sector. Unless you do this, it will not happen. For example, we have a venture called the Eco Dwellings Private Limited. It is for providing low cost housing to poor people in urban area at less than 6 lakhs for 380 square feet. And we also want to provide, and you are the chairman of that, right?
Right.
So we want to also, so these kind of projects which have come up, ideas which have come up, must be supported because it can be done. Cheaper procurement of building material, lower rates, specialized rates for land for mass housing, and government support is necessary for entrepreneurs in a PPP mode.
Right. And for watershed development also, yes, allocated.
So that's a very good step. So I think wherever they have done good, we have to say the budget is good. But if you say it's a 50-50 kind of a model, IIM Foods not rate this budget out of a 10 point. I want to only give 5 marks, and I think even Jaitley would give only 5 marks to himself if he has an introspection of this budget. And I do not know what were his compulsions, but I would still like to go with the finance minister at this point of time. And my criticisms are constructive. I have raised certain issues with you, talking with you, that this union budget needs a lot of insight and look. It should not look like a college boys budget, because there is some portions where there is nothing explained and that we allocate this much, nothing is explained and it's all looking in the air, and it may not be there because a lot of data which may be lying with them, or they may come up with the next 3 months with their plan. But I think, you know, to be fair to him, he had only 8 months to convey certain things to the public, but overall when I look at it, I would say it's a missed opportunity.
Okay, on a scale of 10, how much?
5.
5, so
it is just pass. I'm not failing the budget, but I'm just saying it's just pass.
Okay, so a lot needs to be done. Maybe we can give him a benefit of the doubt this time. With this, it was very good talking to you, Professor Iyer.
Yeah.
And
there are a lot of things in the budget. We are going to come up with our print story in Marconomy, our publication. We are going to analyze the entire 21 points that have been listed on the in brief in the website of the PDF by the ministry. I am very happy that there is a lot of transparent information dissemination. I must congratulate the government for the transparency, because we cannot analyze and talk all these things unless the government is transparent. So many places it is good, but there is a great, I told you from the beginning when we were discussing that there was a sky high expectation, and it's something which has actually gone as and hit us even below the ground with a thud. So I believe that that's why I'm saying only 5 marks. I would have loved to give the finance minister 8 or 10, but I think somewhere, and one more point I want to say, a lot of credit must be given to the Chidambaram budget of 2011-12. We cannot do away with it, and I want to say that because a lot of those policies are being continued. So minus the criticism of UPA and all that, I think at least the finance minister Chidambaram's budget, we told that time that it will be a landmark budget, not from the point of view of a political party or anything, but in fiscal consolidation. Of course, there is a different view that he curtailed expenditure, and now we are talking about not curtailing expenditure but driving infrastructure. It is not sufficient and substantial. but the direction is there, the pitch is there, these undercurrents lie, they are not overcurrents still, and I want to see after 8 months if Finance Minister Jaitley is able to deliver the real Modi bank budget, and that is my hope for February 2015. Let's wait for that, my friends.
With that, we conclude this show. And for disabled people, you can do and you can go behind putting braille on your currency notes. There are other financing objectives. There are people who are entrepreneurs. You can give them provisions.
But there is nothing for disabled entrepreneurs like you. Nothing is done for physically challenged entrepreneurs. Nothing is done. So where is it, my friend? That is another area. So there are many areas like this which need to be addressed. But this is a very key area, that people who are entrepreneurs and disabled entrepreneurs who do not go to even banks to get their loans like you, what are they getting?
Or insurance.
Or insurance, what are they getting? Nothing, my friends. So keep watching. Keep watching our Marconomy Take in the future as well.
This is Prakash Iyer with Professor Iyer signing off until such time when we meet again. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, my friends.
समंदर की लटों में चांदनी का गजरा,
पर्वतों की आंखों में बादलों का कजरा।
हिंदुस्तान की जान है ये रंग रूप चेहरा, संस्कृति का धनी है राज सुंदर सुनहरा।
धर्म यहाँ पे तो मेहमान नवाजी है, सबका दिलों से होता स्वागतम यहाँ।
अनंत है, अपार है, ये प्रांत नहीं ये प्राण है। जय 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 महा महा महाराष्ट्र मेरा, देखो प्यारा महा महाराष्ट्र मेरा। महा है महाराष्ट्र।